Hey everyone, welcome back to Zero Sum Game, the Reacher podcast. For those who aren't familiar, my name's Sohan. I'm the head of go-to-market at Reacher, leading sales and marketing. And Reacher is an end-to-end creator matchmaking software that helps you find affiliates, nurture relationships, and then amplify with contests and ads on TikTok Shop. Today, we have Kyle here. You guys might recognize him because I probably did one episode with him one episode ago. But he's the founder of Advertise Purple and also the founder of ClickMint, an AI-powered CRO solution. In today's episode, I'm going to be diving with him deep into the nuances of CRO, current landscape, and some of the unique things that ClickMint is doing. For those who aren't familiar, Kyle, could you give a quick background on yourself and intro as well?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. It's very nice to be here. Good to see you again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, a long 14 days.
A long 14 days. So my background, as you mentioned, founded Advertise Purple back in 2012, started as an affiliate. And this actually leads into why I created ClickMint about a year and a half ago, a little bit more. So started as affiliates. At that point, when Advertise Purple was in its infancy, today, Advertise Purple is an affiliate management platform, right? But in the beginning, we were affiliates. And so we were doing the dirty work. We were buying traffic, arbitrage, spending a lot of money on Facebook, and optimizing landing pages. It was all about tweaks to make the offers profitable. And we quickly noticed that it came down to how well a page is optimized for the traffic source. So we were using all the tools that we had at that point back in the day. Fast forward, Advertise Purple turned into a management platform, started onboarding brands. And during my tenure there as CEO until I stepped back in 2023, we continued to employ basic CRO strategies. The difference is it was difficult to do. That really wasn't our position that we were hired for. But when we were able to, that big change was present. And so, in 2023, when I moved back, I really just wanted to scratch that itch. And I said, now there's AI is kind of blooming.
Interesting.
This is an amazing opportunity to leverage, a phenomenal data analysis tool and kind of connect it to this vision that I had in my mind. And that's where ClickMint, kind of grew from.
Yeah. I mean, you guys at Advertise Purple, you're managing 1,000 brands or some ridiculous number like that, right? So that's a great data set, to start validating what's the real point of amplification here? And I think with conversion rate optimization, if I'm not mistaken, I might misquote you here, is you're saying if we're able to optimize the traffic that we're getting to all of our customers, we can increase, our billables and all the revenue that's coming from there. Was that sort of the genesis of the idea? Where was the area of arbitrage you saw with your book of business and Advertise Purple specifically?
You nailed it. So, when I think about the answer to that question, I think about what are the limitations of our capabilities at Advertise Purple. Our business model and the economics for Advertise Purple, it is a performance-based affiliate marketing agency. In other words, we make more money when we show success. And in order to do that, there's kind of two levers, right? The first is recruiting more affiliates, increasing the variety of traffic sources. But once the traffic is flowing, we kind of cross our fingers and we're like, we hope that it converts. In some cases it doesn't. In others it converts very well. But that's where, that kind of inflection point is where, well, if you can get in there and better understand what is going wrong, the choke points for that traffic on the brand's website, then you can address it and you can solve the problem, get that shopper from, walking down the aisles, digitally to making a purchase. And that's kind of, with that, to your point, we're able to bill more. And so that's why it was like, we want to do more. And, again, with Advertise Purple, there were limitations in what we were hired to do, but that was always something I'm like, God, we could really stretch our legs if we had the agency to do so.
Well, I think it's funny because as an agency scales, right? Over time, the service is a lot different than boutique agencies if you start to get bigger, right? And I feel like it's kind of cool where it's if you layer the technology back in, you get back into that high quality service area, like the golden age when you were doing the servicing of the accounts yourself. I think one thing that I didn't realize is like I didn't know you were an affiliate before you started Advertise Purple. So I think this is a part of the ecosystem that marketplace experts don't look at enough, is like, what does the creator or the affiliate think? Like when you're an affiliate working across multiple different projects, which types of projects do you tend to prefer working on? Is it people with more optimized sites? Is it people with better selling products, right? Because if you're buying Facebook ads, right, you're looking for areas of arbitrage, right? Can you like walk me through like what your, I guess, like job selection criteria was when you were an affiliate valuing, which brands you want to take on?
Yeah, a good question. Very relevant today still.
Yeah.
Even though I did this a long time ago. It all comes down to the offer. Does the offer convert?
Yeah.
And oddly enough, there are offers that just don't. In an offer, another synonym is the product that you're promoting. Like, does it actually convert?
Yeah.
And so for us, we were able to, the way that we ran offers is we would have our traffic source. Facebook was one of the traffic sources. We bought, a lot of Google Display at that time. Plenty of Fish was like a dating site way back then.
Yeah.
We were like buying traffic from those sites. And we would have our jump page or our lander. And that would be hosted by us. And that was a warm-up page for the offer. So we would buy the traffic. And I think at the heyday, we were spending anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 a day in ad spend, significantly more some days, probably less others when the ROI would turn negative. And on our jump page, on our landing page, it would be tuned for a specific type of product, for like a vertical. It might be a beauty product, might be a health and wellness item. But we would basically first swap in the product. So it would be a very simple split test of, we have the control as the landing page. We've used it before for this vertical. We know it works.
Yeah.
We know it ships people from that page onto the offer page. Does the offer convert?
Yeah.
And so first we would say, okay, what are the offers we really want to focus on before we turn up spend?
So this might be a stupid question. This is something we look at in TikTok Shop a lot, right? Where it's like, for me, and this is funny because like on TikTok Shop, I break down a good product as like the offer times likelihood to sell. Okay. Which is kind of like a very, I guess, like barbaric way of saying how much money can I make and how likely is this traffic gonna convert on where it lands, right? I think with marketplaces, since there's like less flexibility on the landing page as like a Shopify website, I've used likely to convert because creators are looking for products that are growing really fast, or they can see the units sold count, right? So I'm assuming back when you were doing affiliate, right, you couldn't see how many units that product sold when you were when you're signing up for it, right?
This wasn't in the 1800s. No, we had, what did we use? We used volume back in the day. We used has offers before they were acquired by Tune. So there were tracking solutions that we would, with the offer, have our pixel placed, right? So we'd work through, sometimes we'd work direct with the brand. Others we'd work through an affiliate network, like ClickBooth back in the day, ClickBank. Those were the type of offers. And so we would, sign up with volume. We'd sign up with has offers or Tune. We'd give them our pixel. We'd place it. So we were able to measure conversions coming in.
But for those products, were you able to see the historical sales volume before you signed up?
So we had so the metric that we lived and died by was EPC, earnings per click. That was everything. And so it was a matter of EPC and CPC, cost per click. That's what we're taking home at the end of the day.
Okay.
So CPCs were everything, EPCs were everything. And going into running an offer is similar to how kind of TikTok Shop does it today. We had a bit of visibility in general EPCs and general performance for this offer, but a lot of the times they were bullshit. The network is incentivized to get you to run the offer regardless. Of course, yeah. So they're telling us, this is the hottest offer. It's going to convert so well. Yeah. And we'd run it and it would, ask the bed. Then we have to switch it out real quick. But yeah, so we had visibility. But again, that was the first point in optimizing in really CRO experience that I had. Okay. And it was trial by fire. I mean, it was, when we made successful adjustments on the site using the tool stack that we had, our profitability would go up 200 to 300 to 400%. I mean, we would have massive days, you know.
Interesting.
And it was all primarily, aside from the offer, majority of it was that jump page or that landing page.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah, because like I feel like it's like the same thing when like we've had TikTok shop affiliates try to send traffic directly to Amazon, right? And then the BSR on those like it just tanks, right, for those products. So then what a lot of people do is they warm those TikTok affiliates into a newsletter, or they're basically putting it into a separate landing page first and then sending it back to Amazon first. So is it kind of a similar concept to that, or is it more just like you have a unique offer and a code on your landing page and then that gets them to convert better there?
Back in the day when we were doing it?
Yeah.
No, it was compelling copy on that page.
Got it.
So there, in some cases, was a code, like, you know, X% off, whatever. But for the most part, it was, you know, maybe it was like a mommy blog, and she was highlighting this issue and, you know, talking about the solution was this product. And so we were constantly drafting you know, landing pages and jump pages. And then we would start to do the basics of conversion rate optimization. We were moving elements and items around. We were doing superficial changes with color swaps and CTA adjustments. But the thing today that we have that I'm sure we'll get into later is just, you know, the holistic insight of actual user behavior coming in from those traffic. We don't have that. I mean, we had GAs, but you know, today with AI being able to analyze, you know, a whole segment of data sets, we're at, just as, you know, an industry, at a massive advantage to really, you know, move forward and provide better designs and experiences for shoppers than I was doing it back.
Yeah, because I was so, you know, I'm not a conversion rate expert, you know, conversion rate optimization expert. There we go. I'm not, you know, I'm not a CRO expert by any means. And I was like basically looking on ChatGPT, like how to explain this. And they were like, the analogy they gave me was basically there's a bunch of kids selling lemonade, right? And there's 100 people that walk by the stand. And then there's like 2 people who walk by and purchase. And then the lemonade stand owner is saying like, oh, what if we change our cups from blue to red and see what happens, right? And like what they were saying is that if you increase the traffic and you make these like superficial changes like that, that doesn't give you any leverage on your conversion rate. And so I think like an elementary level of like conversion rate optimization that I think most people have is like, I'm going to make some design adjustment or switch this design element up or A/B test just this letter and, you know, some copy over here, or like maybe even this offer, which is getting a little better. But I think compared to like what you've actually seen across like the thousands of brands you work with across Advertise Purple, what other tactics were like people trying before you started ClickMint for this, where you realized that felt just like wrong?
I mean, that was it for the most part. They were superficial adjustments. They were calls to action, easy copy that could be edited. I love the analogy, by the way. That's a very easy way to understand it. Changing the cup color. Yeah. You know, I think other items that had worked, co-branding landers, co-branding landing pages from different types of affiliates, co-branded offers. Yeah. Those made a big difference. They still do today. But that was it. You know, we aside from that, you know, and to your point, you know, the breadth of accounts that we manage at Advertise Purple, I think we've serviced to date over like 5,000 brands. And so we had a lot of insight into what was working and what wasn't. But we didn't get, again, pulling in your analogy, we didn't have an understanding like we do today. Well, where did these kids who were showing up for Lemonade come from? Yeah. You know, were they coming from a soccer game? Were they coming from the beach? Were they coming from the next door? And where are they going after they have the Lemonade? Yeah. You know, so all of those ancillary insights provide so much more value than, you know, well, what you see is what you get. We're going to optimize the cup color, maybe the taste of the lemonade, or maybe the price. Like, there's more to it than we had expected. Nevertheless, at Advertise Purple, those, you know, small changes were making a decent difference.
So I guess just to drill down into that more, from what I'm understanding you say, it's understanding the user behavior and then understanding the user goals, right? Like what they're trying to do. But it almost seems to relate back into like general marketing persona, right? But for me, it's very hard to apply a marketing persona to like thousands of traffic signals, right? Is this like a more practical way of applying a marketing persona to this? Because it almost sounds like, what does this person want? Why are they coming here? What are they looking for? What are their pain points? What kind of attitude are they coming in here with? And what sort of psychographic information are they coming into the website with, where then we can optimize our messaging, our design, our colors? Mm-hmm. Is that sort of the methodology you're employing behind your solution here?
In ClickMint, that is. Yeah, okay. That is the case. I mean, there's a lot of nuance to that. But like I mentioned earlier, the model that we have created, we think about it as kind of an ensemble of AI. We use a variety of different, not just OpenAI. And we have kind of stitched them together for it to tune them for CRO, adjusted prompts, heavily engineered the prompts.
Okay.
So we do get a better understanding of what sources are they coming in from. Now, asterisk, that is contingent on the input data.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the old GIGO principle.
Yep.
So we want to make sure that when we do onboard a brand, it's not just Google Analytics that they're giving us. We want Shopify data. We want all of their heat map tracking from Hotjar. We want as much RAG data as possible. That way we can create kind of cohorts of users with common themes and patterns. And when they show up at the lemonade stand, they're going to be divided into a line that serves to them what we think they really want,
Interesting.
So it is layered, but of course in those signals, there's a lot of noise, and we're not catering, 400 tests per, traffic source. We're really trying to minimize it, make it as efficient as possible without getting too carried away.
100%. And I know your director of engineering is more like in the weeds on the prompt engineering, right? But from my understanding, a lot of what makes ClickMint different is focusing on the user experience a lot more, correct? Like just general like UX principles. And I think this applies like very similar to like a lot of product marketing and product management, when you're starting with different personas and then creating the core workflows in your product, right? You're taking the same information where it's like someone from TikTok is, let's say it's like a TikTok mom who's like looking for this type of, like mug. I don't know why it always comes back to mugs, but looking for this type of mug because it's cheap, but it's easy. It like fits in with like her middle class cohort of friends, right? Like, do you ever like look that deeply in terms of the UX? Like what kinds of UX principles are you applying when you're saying you're evaluating the user's needs, like what they want when they're coming in?
Yeah, I mean, we don't collect PII, so there's no, like zip code info, we're not adjusting there. We do have specific cases where I said we don't collect zip codes, but in some certain cases we utilize it and then we dump it so it's not held, but nothing like credit card information or things that we could really understand what they want. But for the most part, and I think, I think CRO to date, people have been doing the best possible. They have been doing everything that they can, considering the tech stack that was available. Unfortunately, in my opinion, that tech stack is fragmented, it's antiquated, and it doesn't provide really in-depth UX changes.
Okay.
For the most part, there are some brands that we have. It's funny, there's some brands that we have that have, this one is a large makeup brand, and they have a 16% conversion rate on their site, which is astronomical, right? For all the listeners out there, I would say average conversion rates on e-com sites are anywhere between 2 to 4.5%.
Yeah.
So, these guys come in at 16%, and my first thought was, well, I don't know if we can help you. And he's like, we want your help. So, we did the diagnostic. We uncovered issues that they were unaware of. And so we're, deep into tests now and we're finding success. Obviously, we're not making, we're not tripling their conversion rate. But for them, it makes a big difference.
Interesting. So before we dive into the diagnostic, because I think, that's really cool, to understand, when you're saying everyone used to use this fragmented tech stack, can you like walk me through what exactly they were using and like why that might be fragmented today?
Yeah, sure. So you kind of bucket it into a few different areas. The first is the tools used for analysis, right? The gold standard that everybody is aware of is Google Analytics. So GA4, that's a big one. Microsoft Clarity, that's another big one. There's variations and kind of derivatives of both of those. And what do those do? Those collect the data and they basically store it. They're kind of a repository that provides a bunch of insight. How many clicks, scroll depth, Hotjar you could lump in there. That's heat session tracking, records videos of users. So that right there is a fundamental part of this kind of ecosystem. You need that data present in order to analyze it and to make decisions off of it. But when you look at that alone, it's hard to do that. Unless you have a team of analysts that are thumbing through those pages and really connecting the dots, excluding the noise. And I think this is where kind of AI has been a godsend, and one of the things it does very well is it's able to, when engineered properly, it's able to cut through the noise, find what is the issue, compare hundreds of thousands of points of data a day. And so that's the first thing. Then the next bucket for kind of CRO in this fragmented world today is once you make a decision based off the analytics, the next question is, okay, well, how do we want to create a design to improve that? Based on our hypothesis, we need to test it. And so that's where you kind of wedge in, a UI, a UX designer, a web dev, or a coder who will say, okay, I hear what you want. Let me build an adjusted page or layout for that.
Interesting.
And since then, there's, we now have WYSIWYG platforms like an A/B Tasty and Optimizely, where you can kind of use templatized versions of changes through CSS on the Ecom Brands webpage. So, once you get the design you want, you kind of move into the testing bucket, which is A/B Tasty, Optimizely. There's a lot of A/B testing solutions. And so they are allowing you to divide up traffic and to run, 50% to your control, your original page, and the other 50 to your variant. And that's that. They're testing 99.9% of the time. They're testing for a conversion rate, maybe an add to card if they're fancy, probably bounce rate, and that's it. So a marketing associate from a brand is kind of sitting there in their Optimizely panel, and they're waiting for conversions to fire to decide if this was good or bad. And they have to let that data stack up, which could take weeks or months, and that's kind of where it drops off. So that's really the kind of crux of what has gone on in CRO for the past couple of years. Throw in a plethora of Shopify plugins. Those are everywhere now. And some of them are good. Some of them are like PDQ. Some of them are rebuy. Some of them will allow, upsells, shopping cart optimizations. Again, majority of them are templatized. They're kind of just add-ons. But so there's a lot going on in this space right now, and so it's hard to connect it all and make one cohesive plan.
Oh, for sure. I'm already getting lost towards the end. For the first bucket, right? Like, let's say, I understand AI's. The fundamental benefit of AI is it's a predictive model, right? So if something's happened in the past, it sort of uses that data to then predict a similar outcome, right? That's the fundamental technology behind these LLMs. And when you're looking through analysts to quote unquote thumb through the data, I'm assuming they're employing some sort of pattern recognition and association there, right? What are the common patterns they're looking for when they're going through this Hotjar and GA4 data, and what are these directors of e-commerce sort of telling them to look for?
Yeah, and I'll give you real answers. I won't give you what I think they should be looking for.
Okay.
I mean, the honest truth when we speak, at ClickMint to brands, and just to give you more context there, the types of brands that we work with, D2C brands doing a minimum of 10 million a year in sales. So they have the capabilities and the income to hire full teams, especially with some of our large brands. They've done this in the past. But, and again, this is the answer that they're giving their marketing associates and they're trying to take action on is, we want more sales. Figure out what's wrong on this page and make it sell more. It's very simple, And so the way that gets actioned off of is conversion rate, is bounce rate, is add to cart, and for the most part, that's where it stops. Okay. So the team that is liaising with a designer is, probably looking up best practices to increase CVR on a page. And they're, making cosmetic adjustments. They're changing a call to action from green to light blue. They're, changing font size. They're moving up hierarchies of things. So that's for the most part what we hear is the instruction, and it kind of makes sense when you consider the outcome of most of these.
Interesting. So I guess what are the real, secondary KPIs of conversion rate then? Because for me, logically, I would probably go and be what's below my conversion rate? My add to cart rate or my bounce rate, because that means the traffic I'm sending is going back, or that means the traffic I'm sending is buying something and adding it to their cart, right? What is wrong with that sort of assumption?
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with it. I mean that it is important and it's fundamental in evaluating the success of a page. But there are actions before and after that specific page. Most people optimize a PDP, product detail page. That's the one that shows the pair of shoes that you're about to buy. PLP, product listing pages, are the category level pages above that. And then you have the home page, or you have maybe a blog or some sort of content piece that they're funneling in from. When you begin to see not only the actions taken on that PDP page right before they add it to their cart, what was their navigation kind of journey, that's when you begin to experience and view patterns that are very relevant. And trying to stay simple here and high level, a lot of the times we'll have access, with the ClickMint platform to see, they went back and forth between, 3 different products. They were running a comparison in their own. So the PLP, that product listing page, needs to have a comparison feature. With that, there's going to be, lower the bounce rate. It's going to improve add to cart. They're going to be able to make a decision sooner. And that's really what it comes down to, is how quickly can we get them to make a positive buying decision. So we want to give these shoppers the tools higher up in the funnel, so when they get to that pair of shoes that they want to buy, that PDP, it's really not about, is the hex color and the shade of green, going to work or not. I mean, it's they found what they wanted based on the traffic source they were coming in from, whether it was TikTok or Instagram or Pinterest. They're being routed to relevant content and relevant products, and then they're making their way to the end.
Interesting. That makes sense. Bouncing back and forth, they need a comparison chart, to make the decision there, versus bounce back and forth, leave to some sort of other affiliate site where they look up comparison video or something like that. That makes sense. And I guess when people are bringing in the UX UI designer, how are they getting involved? Are they validating this data by doing a few user interviews with common customers? Is it similar to how it goes in product management, or are they just mainly high level looking at web design?
Yeah, the true answer is none of the above. Well, I would say the latter for the most part.
Okay.
I mean, the honest answer is, from our understanding, the junior marketing associate or whomever is tasked with analyzing the data and understanding why the conversion rate is low on a page or on a site, they're packaging up the learnings and handing that to a UX, UI, web dev who is saying, okay, so what do you want me to do here? And, it's up to that marketing team to say, okay, well, based on the problem and the research that we've done, we think that you should change the add to cart color from this to that, and to move it higher up above the FAQs. And so the designer's just like, okay, sounds good, and they do it.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's the way that it's worked for the most part for majority of brands. Okay. And as you can imagine, it's expensive and it's lengthy, and it's really not that formulaic or calculated.
Yeah. So the root cause is the diagnosis issue, right? It's just people aren't correctly understanding the problem. They're looking at metrics without understanding the context of the data and the patterns that are happening there, correct? And so I think one thing I want to dive a little bit deeper into what you're doing is the diagnostic component of ClickMint. I find that really interesting, and I feel that's where AI really should be used, is making sense of an enormous amount of noise and data and just turning that into signal, right? So I guess walk me through exactly like what kind of diagnostics are you doing? Like, what is a diagnostic? What are the kind of signals you're bringing in through that diagnostic, and what's coming out at the other end?
And it's one that, if I had the engineering team, they'd probably have a better and a slightly different answer than me. For the most part, what we do, the first step of a diagnostic is, leveraging all of that brand's data that we have access to. Mm-hmm. So, Shopify data, like I said before, any sort of heat map tracking videos, customer journeys, Microsoft Clarity, all of that data. Leveraging that, we hook into it, and then we are able to index to the vast majority of it, or the relevant portions that we want to analyze, apply our heavily engineered prompts, and then sort through understanding first the issues on each individual page. So in addition to that data, we are taking screenshots and images of that particular page at full length in all devices, browsers, handsets, and that usually brings up some really interesting points. For example, people are coming in from Facebook and using Safari on mobile. Mm-hmm. A lot of brands are unaware that 4 of their images above the fold are broken. Because no one's doing that, Yeah. And so it's, even if you were deep in the analytics, you're not really going to see that. Yeah. Because that's a quantitative measure of it as opposed to an image. So we combined the visuals as well as that data, and we go through on a page-by-page basis. And from there, we are able to diagnose a host of problems. And again, it's different for each brand. And so what we consider is not only the things that I mentioned, but within that data, we're getting a grasp on where did they come from? What traffic source did they arrive at? And where are they going after they click on this page? And so again, all of that is used to give us an understanding in a very simple manner in our dashboard. Here are the 8 issues for this one particular URL that are causing a problem. And once we stack up all the individual page issues, we look at patterns there, and we're able to connect those dots and label them as site issues or systemic problems that if we were to solve this one systemic site issue, we would knock out, we'd resolve 65% of the problems on all the PDPs or all the PLPs. Mm-hmm. And so it makes it an easily digestible, very linear approach towards solving problems. And for the most part, that's really how the diagnostic works without getting too technical. Yeah,
and when you're saying, we're layering in another type of data that's not quantitative, is there a human going in and being like, hey, this looks off on this traffic source here, I'm going to go pull up the Facebook and see what's going on there, and the image is broken? Or does your model call that out before it even arrives to you?
The model will call it out. So if there's images that are broken, it will recognize it, image recognition. Yeah. And same with if, the other cool thing that it does is if there are scripts that aren't firing or scripts that are broken in that particular page, for instance, people will have like a Salesforce chat bot script loading, and there'll be a 10-second delay on a buried PDP. Mm-hmm. That's hard to find unless you're in that experience and you see it. Yeah. Our model is able to recognize that and label that as, hey, very slow load. The script that's running is this. Images are broken. So we get the visual. We're able to, in the particular page issue, we open it up. We can click on the screenshots that were taken and verify what the model is telling us is in fact correct. So to me, I think this is a really important part about using AI in the capacity that we are, is there is still a human element involved. Right? Yeah. This is not, we never intended to build ClickMint as a SaaS product because you need someone looking at it who is an expert at CRO, who understands the mechanics and shooting down any sort of hallucinations that might, or any sort of false positives. Yeah. But yeah, for the most part, it's, accurate, a significant vast majority of times.
I think that's cool. I think it's also cool that it looks at latency. I think that's something that's super, it's just so, I don't know, for me, it's just so obvious. there are random things where it's like, oh, if there's like poor latency, just adding in a widget that shows that something's happening, and you guys can inject experiments like that, right? Where it's like, oh, like you might not solve the actual latency issue, right? But you'll be like, hey, if we add in a widget that shows like a timer going on that this is loading in a couple seconds, right? Things like that can improve conversion rate, correct? Is that how your model is acting on that information?
Yeah, I mean, so that takes it into the, takes it into the next suggestion and design methodology behind ClickMint. But yeah, so
well, before we dive into that, I have one question on different traffic sources. So I think one of the things that's really important now is where the traffic is coming from. And yes, the platforms are still like Facebook, Instagram, blah, 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 right? Images. But I think with video, right? You guys are saying you're taking images and you're looking at screenshots, right? Are you able to process videos like using like OCR, like, screenshotting that into like multiple images at once, like, and analyze, like, let's say like, an influencer is posting on TikTok, right? And she's like this mega influencer and she has her coupon code or her link in her caption, or in her bio, right? Are you able to like understand the nature of like video placements from the traffic source as well?
Not today.
Okay.
Yeah, not today. But video, when you look at, I would say the percent of our clientele of our portfolio that use, and I'll pull up Hotjar again. That's by far the most popular.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about video on the traffic end. I'm talking about video, analyzing video for a RAG input.
Got it. Okay.
So that's kind of in the oven of what we're doing. But when it comes to, videos that are acting as sources of traffic, able to analyze those, no. I was hoping that Reacher would help us with that.
I mean, it's interesting because I don't know if you saw the news, but TikTok Shop is launching shoppable photos.
Okay.
So now those photos have the same shoppable link that you can click and purchase that the videos do. So I think what's going to be happening is people are going to go back to their TikTok Shop slideshow tactics and TikTok Shop photos. And I'm wondering, is ClickMint cooking up something, or would it be able to do something where if the traffic is coming from an image from an individual creator's post, would that be something that you guys could act on then?
I would say the short answer is anything's possible. Our lead engineers are hearing that going, no, it's not. But in reality, we're doing things that we couldn't imagine that we were going to achieve even 12 months ago.
Yeah.
What you're saying in our world would make sense if the dollars made sense. If the brand that we were managing had 50% of their traffic coming in from videos that were clearly marked and identified, that would basically push us to be like, let's figure this out. I would say for the most part, brands have solid traffic coming in from TikTok, but not enough for us to pause and say, let's actually break down where in TikTok was it coming from.
Yeah. No, that makes sense, because I think even with the Amazon affiliate world, most of the traffic doesn't come from influencers. It comes from the bloggers, the listicles, So I think optimizing for that as a first order of magnitude, makes sense. Okay, cool. Those are my questions on super random ancillary edge case traffic sources. I was just genuinely curious to see how we could maybe use it for our site, just in case there were people on YouTube being like, hey, Reacher is a tool where you can grow your TikTok Shop revenue by 10,000 and then optimizing a landing page to convert better for that kind of source,
Yeah.
So what's the next step, right? You've got this traffic coming in through your diagnostic, and then you're giving recommendations. I think there's a lot of beauty in there, so I want to hand the floor over to you to walk through that a bit more.
Yeah. And with any AI model, you're able to have a dialogue with it.
Okay.
And so with everything that I mentioned in the diagnostic process, whether it's the page or the site issue, you're able to pressure test, right? And so that's the bridge that the humans take. We look at the suggestions, we look at the deficits that it is projected due to that problem, and we are able to say, okay, well, tell us what changes we should make.
Yeah.
The great thing is the sky's the limit. And we'll get into that with the design portion of the platform. But we're not constrained by what our WYSIWYG can do. There's no constraints. Based on the data coming in when we ask our model, so what should we do? It could be anything, move this, change that, eliminate the hero image, add in 15 different steps here and there. So we really want to get the best prescription for the illness possible. Mm-hmm. And so that is kind of the half step after the diagnostic is we go through and we figure out which holes are the largest in this boat, and we want to plug those first. Mm-hmm. And so depending on the engagement that we have with the brand, we could be looking at 8 to 10 experiments or 25 to 35 experiments.
Interesting.
All of that, is contingent on the traffic on the pages that we're optimizing. Okay. But so we go back and forth with our model. We build an impact analysis. So after we get the recommendation for what we should change in the UX or the UI, we say, okay, if we were to do that, based on what you know about ClickMint's other brands in similar experiments that we've run, plus general AI knowledge, spin up the math on how well we can do in the next 30, 60, 90, 180 days.
Okay. So then the AI will give you a recommendation on what kinds of experiments to run, how many experiments based off of that impact analysis. Is that sort of what's happening next?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
And it'll give, the flight times for it. It'll say, based on all of the data that it has access to, it's going to be an 8-day experiment till we reach statistical relevance. Mm-hmm. It's very acute with the prescription, if you will.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you have some NDAs and you've got to protect your clients, right? But can you walk me through a very close example on what that dialogue looks like? After you do a diagnostic, it doesn't have to be hard numbers, right? But what is this conversation with this model looks like? I think people hear oh, we can talk to ChatGPT, we can have conversations with these models, but it feels like a black box. What does that mean? Are you telling it hey, make this conversion rate higher, get me more experiments? What exactly, how are you talking to it and what is it saying back to you?
Yeah, we speak to it, it's an agent, right? So It's an agent within our platform of various agents. We have a design agent, we have the model agent, the diagnostic agent, and we do that. We pressure test it. We talk shit to it. So we're honest.
Yeah.
It's when we get a response, what we want to do before we take action on any recommendation is ensure that it is completely valid, that the math checks out. We have it check its own work. Math is, for the most part, excellent with AI models. So that's usually the least,
interesting.
cautious moment.
So you guys are using not just OpenAI models then, right? Because sometimes some models really suck at math. I've heard that models are very good at, it's kind of like in Google search results, right? It predicts the next letter. It uses predictive logic to get there. But whenever you give it complex math, it takes a longer time to load. I was doing some, I don't know if I should say this out loud, but I was doing some compensation structure math in ChatGPT for people we were hiring. I was doing some compensation structure math for new hires we were making, and I was if we hit these sales targets at these commissions with these accelerators, can you map out a contingency for our 3-month, 6-month, 12-month, pricing models and put it on a table for each scenario? And it was loading for a full 8 to 10 seconds. ChatGPT 5.2.
You broke it.
Yeah, I started breaking it. I'm Sam, call me up, And so I'm surprised. I think it's excellent if you guys have also figured out the math portion behind it too, and are able to run it on dozens of experiments at once. That's just wanted to say that's crazy.
Yeah, and but to your point, it's our design module and our design agent. We're using a different LLM.
Yeah.
You're 100% accurate. We constantly are fiddling with the versions and the LLMs to find the right fit for the agent.
Yeah.
But for the most part, again, the math is sound, and we're not, we're not having it do crazy stuff. It's extrapolations and it's averages and it's realistic probabilities and scenarios and
100%.
But so ultimately it spins up the math. We validate that. We look at the UX adjustments or UI adjustments. We also validate and spot check those, and then we move into okay, now we have a plan. We've made sure that it is targeting the biggest holes in the ship. We understand that potential clawback of revenue for the next 12 months or 6 months is going to be $1.47 million. Here's exactly how it's going to happen. Here's how long it's going to take. So again, very systematic. And then we take that up and we present it to the client. And then we kind of move forward with the design agents and, it goes from there into testing.
How accurate are those like timelines usually? Do you feel like it's been, I know it depends on like the data it's suggesting largely to estimate that, right? Do you feel like they're more or less accurate, and like does it depend on a lot of the other stakeholders that are involved in like implementing it, or are you able to like have the agent then take action and then like inject an experiment like into a website?
Yeah, so the timelines so far are, I would say, about 85% of the time they're right on. Nice. We're hitting statistical relevance, or we're seeing maturation of experiments there or a bit sooner. The variables in the equation that we don't control, the amount of traffic coming in from a brand. They may, really hit it big on TikTok, and all of a sudden they get like a flood of TikTok traffic.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, this is killing our experiment. Yeah. We need to put iteration B or iteration C, break up TikTok traffic, segment it out so it doesn't contaminate our cohort. So, fluctuations in traffic are probably one of the bigger variables that when we see it coming in, we're like, okay, this is going to affect the timeline. Now, is it going to expedite it or is it going to delay it?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because I can even think of like, CPM's rising on Meta over the last 8 months, right? Is that going to affect our traffic if the brand is only bringing in traffic from Meta ads, which I hope people aren't doing as much anymore nowadays? So like that makes sense. And I guess like I want to dive a bit more deeper into some precise examples. So let's say, and I'm going to frame this poorly, let's say you're removing some of the traffic signal source and you want to scope out like 10 experiments to optimize your add to cart rate, right? What are like some common things that your AI system can run in parallel that it would take like a full team of like a full CRO pod to run those like 10 experiments in parallel?
You mean types of experiments?
Types of experiments, right? Where you were saying one where it's like, add in a comparison chart on this PDP versus PLP, right? Yeah. Like things like that. Like, and I think the beauty of AI and probably what you can clarify for me is that you can do all those things at once.
Right.
It's not eliminated, or it's not constrained by one human strategist's ability to visualize and put the same cognitive effort into 10 experiments and then direct other people at once, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to kind of dovetail off your comment about, doing a comparison graph. Again, it all is predicated on the traffic source and the input. For people who are looking to compare, it could be coming in from affiliate traffic that's coming in from like a top 10 or a best of site. Okay. They're in comparison mode. This is one of the items that they're exploring.
Got it.
If they're coming in from Pinterest, good example is for an ATC rate. One of our brands, we did this recently, we broke off their Pinterest traffic and we hooked in the items that are most popular on Pinterest and then created a collage and like a landing page specifically with Pinterest products.
Wow.
And so Pinterest traffic goes straight to it. It says, I think we had like a banner that was like, Pinterest users. It was something about, welcoming Pinterest users or reiterating that this was the hottest collection on Pinterest right now.
Interesting.
ATC rates spike.
Yeah.
But again, people coming from TikTok or from Meta, they don't want to see a Pinterest banner and they don't want a Pinterest collection. So you could take an example like an ATC adjustment and divide it up and have 2 or 3 adjustments per traffic source. And so all of a sudden you're getting super crazy with it.
Yeah.
But, it comes down to, well, what do we want to focus on? Is Pinterest the primary driver of traffic? And also, what's the RPS? What's the revenue per session or the RPU? We want to make sure that we are optimizing for not only conversion rate or ATC rate, but for actual like bottom line at the end of the day,
This is going to sound like a super big edge case again. Sorry for bringing these up. But like, what if someone's coming from like a review site, right? And the emotions of like the review are like, it's like not a super compelling review, or there's like, maybe the reviews have like a good amount of stars and it's driving traffic, but the language in the review is like critical.
Yeah.
Would you guys, when you take screenshots of that review page, have your AI like semantically analyze the sentiment in there and be like, hey, this person's coming in with their guard up. So let's stack up some more proof to like counteract some of the stuff they were saying in the reviews.
That's a good way to approach it. We don't do it that way. Okay. So we don't go to the source and investigate the source. So we're not looking at which review sites did they come in.
Because there's too many sources.
Yeah, or which like TikTok videos did they watch.
Got it.
But what you'll see is when they get to a PLP or they get to a PDP or they get to checkout, there's going to be hesitation. Mm-hmm. There's going to be minimal scroll depth. There's going to be a high bounce rate. And we'll take a screenshot, the model will take a screenshot and be like, you need to elevate your trust components or your social proof.
Interesting.
So put up, it looks like you have your stars below the fold on Safari mobile, and that's majority of traffic. Those need to be bumped up. In addition to that, put these 3 reviews that we pulled from the bottom of your page up above the add to cart. You know, so social proof, those types of items, it will identify as a potential solution for high bounce rate, low scroll, low engagement for that traffic source. But your idea is a good way to do it. We just, haven't made it to that yet.
No. I mean, I think for me, like, I sometimes just say things that might be technically very, very hard and costly. It's like, oh, developers, why don't you do a semantic model to like read the tone and sentiment analysis for...
You guys can do that, right?
Yeah. It's like 10,000 traffic sources, no problem. No, I'm just genuinely, curious because we're looking into a lot of things like sentiment analysis and video processing and building our own models in-house. I mean... But again, like the processing costs to train those models and keep prompting them on the videos, it's like, it's a lot. And I know because Jerry is like, Sohan, you need to finish your prompt engineering task. And I pushed it back a little bit, but it's like, it's super interesting. It's like you write the prompt, process a video, in like Google BigQuery, but then it's like, there's a cost for processing each video. And it stacks up when you have like hundreds of thousands of TikTok shop videos that we have to analyze at Reacher, So I was just curious to see if there was any like parallel things, trying to hint that if you guys were testing your own models there,
just ship those over here.
Yeah, give me. No, that makes sense. And then what happens like after, right? So you've analyzed it, you've got the experiment. When it comes to like implementation and execution, are you guys still doing anything there, or are you handing it back to the customer?
Yeah, and this is, I think a big kink in the chain of CRO. I think, the diagnostic portion is difficult enough, like we discussed.
Yeah.
But, when you need to actually create the UX adjustment or the UI change, it's expensive and it takes a long time. And most e-com brands, even if they're doing, 10 to 20 million a year in D2C, they have like a part-time developer or a part-time web dev guy, and he's some dude off like Upwork, and like no one trusts him really. So it's like the way that it works right now is a bit sticky. With ClickMint, that was a core focus of the platform. Is we don't want to only benefit from the diagnostics and amazing recommendations that we can get from our model. We need to make those. Like, we're not going to go back to the client and say, okay, here's like a brilliant path forward. You can just do it, and then when you're done, let us know and we'll test it,
Yeah.
So we have a design agent that does it almost immediately. We take those prompts and I'll kind of, I'm not going to get too detailed on how we do it.
Sure.
It takes a couple minutes per each prompt, and we are able to spin up the design.
Wow.
And we're able to inject it, get a visual confirmation on it functioning in a live dynamic environment. And, that's ultimately what we share with the brand. Once they greenlight that, we can turn it in the final step, which is actually running the experiment.
Interesting. So what are the costs if they were to do it the expensive way, right? It's hiring the UX designer, having a growth person. Like, I just want to drill down into like, why is it so expensive and why aren't more people doing it if it's so important?
Yeah.
Isn't it worth the cost to make sure that the traffic you spend a 5-to-1 ROAS or MER on is actually converting?
Yeah. And I think it's such a loaded question, and it's such a relevant one. I think, again, due to the fragmented nature of the CRO space, it's really been more of like a wildcatting operation for most people. They're trying to figure out what to improve on their site. They're creating their own human-led diagnostics, which are flawed. I mean, even though I feel like I know a lot about CRO, I am, by no means a genius, and I don't think that I could get close to assessing the types of outputs that we've seen from our model.
Yeah.
And so even taking me and putting me in the place of, what's been done over the last 10 years, the suggestions that I would give to a designer would be, 40 to 50% right,
Wow.
correct. And the cost of that is expensive. But then when I give it to a designer, you're going to have, I don't know what they're going to throw it up in Figma. That's going to take 3 to 4 weeks, depending on their workload. After that, web dev is going to have to do it, another maybe 4 to 6 weeks to actually code it. And then you're going to have to, throw it up on the site. And so that's a significant amount of time. I mean, I think there was a stat that I read. It was on average to ship one experiment, the cost is $10,000.
Wow, one experiment.
Yeah, one experiment is $10,000. And it takes, I don't know, in my timeline, it was maybe 2.5 months to release one experiment. And that experiment is coming from a half-assed diagnostic, possibly, or coming from the gut from somebody. And so I think at the C level, that's why, in theory, the C-suite loves CRO. But in practice, it's expensive. It doesn't drive that much return. Again, just like wildcatting, they'll strike oil sometimes. They'll be like, this is worth it. And it'll keep them interested in it.
Yeah.
But there hasn't been, a way to kind of not only expedite the timeline, but reduce the cost and expedite the learnings. And so, but it's pretty cumbersome the way that it's kind of done today.
So there's a cost element, $10,000, but then there's also like the cost of being wrong and the fact that your diagnostic is wrong and that your team has spent, 2.5 months, almost a full quarter doing something that didn't address the root cause. And I think that really irritates, a lot of C-suites I've seen is like when people are just doing work on the symptoms and not addressing the root cause, and then they can't do the next thing on their agenda or their roadmap because people are still just dealing with like new symptoms that keep popping up instead of addressing the root cause. So that's a big cost there. And then $10,000 then for one experiment.
Yeah.
That's it. It seems like you said you guys are running up to 25 experiments at once. And like, what's the delta in terms of how long it takes you guys to get an experiment end to end?
I mean, the diagnostic, including design mocks, takes us 3 to 4 business days. Experiments are seconds to launch. So I would say the turnaround time on a new brand would be 3 to 4 days before we're shipping experiments, and that could be anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30.
So 3 days versus 3 months. Jesus Christ. I'm going to sign up for our own website. We're getting crushed by this like Jack Reacher SEO issue.
Interesting.
So we have like 2 issues where one, Jack Reacher shows up every time someone searches Reacher. And I've tried it on YouTube. I've tried it on Google search. I've tried it like every single platform. And we're getting crushed there. So we're combating some AEO, answer engine optimization, and then SEO, search engine optimization stuff there. And then our next step is CRO, right? Where it's like now that the traffic is coming in from all sorts of places, podcasts, TikTok, Instagram, X, and maybe some events we spoke at, right? Like how do we get that to convert better for a sale? Do you feel like it works well for B2B as much as B2C? Because I know like the elements on checkout are a little bit different from B2B versus B2C, right?
Well, I think the first thing you could do is we could run an experiment, segment off the Jack Reacher traffic.
Yeah.
Hey, if you like Jack Reacher, you get 10% off.
90% gets segmented off. I swear it's all Jack Reacher. It's terrible.
It's really funny. So e-com, is 85% of our business. The rest is lead gen. So we do have B2B lead gen. We have, D2C lead gen. And, the goal when we onboard a brand, there's kind of an input form that we throw together manually. What is the goal of the website? Is it to complete the newsletter sign up? Is it to select a subscription? Is it to make a purchase? With, traditional D2C e-com brands, it's pretty black and white. So depending on what the goal of your site is, we will adjust like the diagnostic and the outputs. So we've used it, you know, a good example, there's a bunch of examples, but I can speak about this one, is the Advertise Purple site. So, you know, obviously there's no checkout, but we're trying to convert.
Book a call, right?
When I remember that was one of obviously the first sites that we loaded up, and it just lit up like a Christmas tree. I'm like, oh, I thought it was so good, and it's not. So we run experiments on that, and that was, you know, an early stage guinea pig. But yeah, and again, like that diagnostic kind of tailors everything differently based on what you're trying to achieve.
Interesting. Does it also optimize pages, like squeeze pages for B2B for like email capture, SMS capture, and things like that too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I can again, you know, I'll stay at altitude here, but we have, this is a really interesting client. They're an adult brand for men, and majority of their traffic, they just have like a couple blog pages that are seated so highly in Google, and they're just crushing it. They just get majority of their traffic. And if you went to this blog page, you'd be like, I can't believe you have like no call to action. You're not pulling people into the actual site to buy stuff. Yeah. So we're able to optimize and put like little modules in there to get people either into the site or to increase their email submits. In all of that, like, is through our design module, is done natively, and it's done out of the gate. So it will be wrapped up in the diagnostic suggestion, and not only does our agent do the design, but it does like the CSS adjustments, and like it is crazy, you know. So it does like the coding behind it. And
really?
Boom, yeah.
Do you guys create landing pages as well for people who are like net new landing pages for people who do that, or would it make more sense for someone to create a landing page and then optimize it so it changes almost entirely from your end? You know? Like
it's a good question. We get that frequently. We do not. So we, you know, I know that, I forgot what it was, but there's a couple.
Replo?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Replo.
Yeah, it was like Replo. A couple other players in the space that are doing that landing page creation. And I think back in the day when I was an affiliate, we were using like Unbounce. It was like one of the first ones. I don't even know if they're still around. But that was, you know, create a landing page. They had like templatized ones, but no, we don't do that. So we're able to provide direction on, hey, here's based on the data what we think you should do, but we're not creating pages from scratch. And I think that, for the most part, works to our benefit, because it's a big misunderstanding in the CRO world that, you know, these guys are going to come in and want to redo my logo. They're going to want to redo my entire site. And I love this site, you know. Yeah. But we're doing very methodical, structured component adjustments and injections, you know. It has nothing to do, you know, with like redesigning like, the look and feel of your site.
I mean, is there a world where your AI model recognizes so many patterns where you're able to be like, here is an AI 1 year's worth of mug converting PDP optimized landing page that we're going to sell you in a bundle. And you just sell like the outputs of these AI landing pages when all the optimizations have been made, tested over time. I'm wondering, like, am I completely off base and missing the entire principle of CRO here? Or is that a possibility in the future?
That's definitely a possibility. It's funny. We've had so much fun with this project. When we started it in August of 24, I would say every week we have like an engineer or our lead engineer, Adam, he'll be like, you know, like, we could also do this. We could also do that. And like, I'm like, we could, you know, it's like total shiny penny. There's so many avenues and directions we could branch off into that are valuable for like these brands and are exactly what they want. But I took a page out of my own book with Advertise Purple, which, you know, at that point was we're staying with affiliate. We're not selling SEO or 100%, PPC. You know, so it's like, we are going to be amazing at what we do. And at that point, you know, all of these other items aren't part of it.
I think that's like the biggest strength of like a seasoned founder is to like not go with the million ideas, and you understand your team can probably only take one or two of your big bets that you want to make, right? If you do like 10 big bets, your team's just going to like not do anything well. Like, you can't execute. So that makes sense. Well, appreciate you jumping on. I think this has been a great session. You've given me a ton of ideas for Reacher. Almost sounds like you're also playing chief product officer for ClickMint as well with the new ideas and analysis you're doing there. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.